Hello again. There can be few more irritating expressions than white privilege. The implication is that simply by virtue of being white, people in Britain enjoy some special advantage over black people and those of South Asian origin. The first thing which strikes us about this idea is, of course, that it is a complete falsehood. There is no inherent benefit in this country to being white. We all know this, but it's one of those things that we feel we should keep quiet about. I cannot speak, of course, for the United States or Australia or any other nations in the so-called Anglosphere, but about Britain I can speak with perfect assurance. Being white does not give us any edge of any kind. What does give people an edge is social class. And it's here that we see the really ironic part of this idea about white privilege. This is that the middle classes do enjoy a privilege, and most middle class people in this country happen to be white. However, middle class white people are madly keen to show a preference towards black people and Asians, because it shows they have the right attitude towards race and probably everything else as well. Since the middle classes really run the country, this means that those in charge do their best to favour people of colour whenever they can, and as long as they think that ordinary people like us don't notice what they're doing. Here's the thing though, the people that the middle classes really despise and hate are white working class people. Whenever the middle class policymakers and intellectuals talk about levelling up, what they mean is raising the status and economic position of black people and Asians. Because they claim to believe in white privilege, they feel that white working class people can manage to raise themselves up without any help from them. Why do middle class people dislike the white working classes? It's quite simple. Working class people often know what is really happening in society and what really needs to be done. They do not swallow all the fancy words in which things like critical race theory are tricked out, and they are able to see through the pretense and tricks with which the middle classes like to surround themselves. This is immensely irritating because other middle class people are polite and tactful enough not to challenge nonsense and double dealing, because who knows when they will want somebody to take their own nonsense at face value. Not so the working classes, who see through it all and then call it out. It's terrible. Academics and politicians are like conjurers, who are fine when performing to an audience composed of other conjurers, but who fall down badly when they do their show in front of ordinary people who are apt to point out how the tricks have worked. It's very annoying. That's why middle class people avoid the proletariat whenever possible. They won't play the game, you see. Remember during Brexit, when working class people could see that being in Europe was of no benefit to them? And remember how they were all denounced as being xenophobic, racist and Little Englanders? It was the middle class people at the BBC and in Parliament and the universities who were reacting in that way. It is the same as the subject of immigration is raised. To most working class people, unrestricted immigration has been a disaster, but the middle classes won't even discuss it. Anybody who wants to talk about immigration must be a knuckle-dragging Neanderthal. White working class school leavers are failing and getting a terrible deal, but this isn't a matter for concern, really. All the efforts to help those struggling are directed towards minorities. The white kids are okay. They have white privilege, you see. I suspect that none of what I'm saying will shock any of the viewers here because they know how this country really works. But when we've reached a state of affairs where the National Broadcasting Corporation, universities and government all have no time at all for white working class people, but fall over themselves in their eagerness to help black people and Asians, it does seem to me that the country might have taken a wrong turn somewhere.